What's up, everyone? It's Zach with the Wicked Heavy Podcast, and in today's episode, I sit down with Dave Comeau of Primal Horde. Now, Dave is the drummer. I've known him for a bit now. He came to when I worked at SJC, he came to the shop and picked up the kit that he still has, that he recorded Primal Horde's latest tracks on. Super cool dude, and I knew I had to get him on because, one, he's awesome, and two, Primal Horde is truthfully one of the heaviest bands that I have heard in a long time. I can't get enough. Been listening to their newest tracks. They got these 3 singles that they just put out nonstop. It's unbelievable. So this conversation was a great one. You know, Primal Horde is from Montreal up in Quebec in Canada. And that's where Dave's from as well. So I learned a lot about the scene there, which seems vibrant, full of energy. There seems to be a ton of shows always happening. Dave said he goes shows every week. And I think heavy music is loved up in Quebec, which is awesome. So, yeah, we talk about Dave's discovering music as a kid, how his taste changed early with bands like Lamb of God came into the picture, Metallica, of course, and then how he kind of evolved from there, getting into bands, and now joining Primal Horde and crushing it. His drumming is unreal. The band is super tight. It's brutal, and you got to check it out for yourself. So thank you for tuning in to this conversation with Dave Comeau of Primal Horde on the Wicked Heavy Podcast. David, my dude, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man.
I'm very excited to have you on, and it has been a long time, as we were just discussing, since 2019 that we saw each other.
Yeah, back in the factory at SJC.
Yep. David came in and picked up, I want to say, a Black and Brass tour series.
Exactly, brother.
5-piece?
I was a 4-piece.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I got an extra tom
that's what it was. Okay.
A year later.
Like 4 toms, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Unreal, man. And you're still ripping it?
Yeah, dude. It's still at my parents' place. I try to play there at least once a week because I'm quite busy, but still, I try to play that at least once a week. And when I get to play shows on the road, I take it, or I take my practice kit. But the more I can, I try to take it with me. And I got also a front skinhead with our logo on it, so
yeah,
it's pretty nice.
Oh, dude, so sick. So your logo for Primal Horde. Okay, my dude, I want to get right into that, and then we'll take it back to like your journey in music. Tell me, because I remember messaging you. I had just discovered the band. It's some of the heaviest stuff I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Facts. Like, it definitely is some of the heaviest music I've ever heard. And I was like, wait a minute, I know who he is. I saw that little post that said, like, want to welcome David Comeau on drums to Primal Horde. And I'm like, no way. My dude's the drummer. So tell me the story, brother.
Sure thing. It was back in the winter of the end of 2022. The end of 2021. The drummer that they had back then, he wanted to do a style change. I think the band, as much as he liked it, it was not his place to be at some point. Like, he felt that he could have more fun in a more funky prog-ish band.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys knew me for a while, since we're pretty good friends for at least 2019, 2020. And they knew I was in the market for a new band. And we're like, so we might need a new drummer soon. Are you down to come to the next jam and see how it goes? I'm like, well, sure thing. And their last drummer, his name was Jay. Jay was there to show me the ropes on how they jam and how they do things. And I saw them play like their set list maybe once or twice. And I had taken the time to learn their songs, even though I was a fan of the band before. So I kind of knew their songs like when I got there, and I think we played a set after that like once with me, and then they just threw some riffs at me just to see what I would play, and
Wow.
it was pretty like self explanatory afterwards.
Yeah.
They pretty much told me, well, if you want the job, you can just have it, and I was like, well, hell yeah, I'm down. And after that, I mean, I got the post officially in February 2022 because their last drummer, they wanted to play the Montreal Madhouse, which is a hardcore fest in Montreal. That the whole scene, the whole hardcore scene, they put that up. It was 2 or 3 days, and they had their second fest this year. Third one maybe next year for sure, but it was a really big set for them. At least like 500 to 600 people at that set, like a sold out Foofs, which is a really nice place to play here. And I did their merch at that show, and I remember when their set ended, the amount of people that rushed at the merch table, I felt so overwhelmed, dude.
Wow.
But that was like my baptism of fire, like going to a jam and then going to their show as their merch guy and just handling the volume of people and then seeing how they run a show. So that was kind of a nice thing to do with them. And then afterwards, the next week, I got to jamming with them on a pretty weekly basis now.
Wow. So that's really cool that the other drummer left on good terms and was like, here, let me show you the ropes. That's
exactly
cool.
Yeah, they're still pretty good friends. I mean, it was not like a bad breakup kind of thing. It was really like, well, I want to do something else that I know you guys don't want to do. So I don't want like to change your style because your style is pretty good as it is. So we just said, well, I'll just leave, go back to my last band and play with them. And that's how it all went down. So yeah.
Wow. Now is this going to be a full length coming out, Primal Horde, like the self-titled, or is this like a series of singles?
That was more like a series of singles that we had. We released that like was only 3 songs. It was Blood Speaker or Blood Soaked. It is a typo. I'm just saying it's supposed to be Blood Soaked. So it's supposed to be. It is a typo, which is kind of funny because on the tapes it is Blood Soaked, but on Spotify it is Blood Speaker for some reason. But
because I remember reading it. And I read it in my mind as Blood Soaked, but then I was like, wait, it says Blood Speaker. That's actually really cool. I've never like seen someone write or say that. It's badass either way.
Then there's that one. There's Killing Fiends, and there's Primal Horde.
Yeah.
Those were more like singles that we had. I would say Blood Soaked and Killing Fields were really 2 new ones in that one. Primal Horde, fun fact, it's the sixth song that the band wrote back in like 2020, but they never actually did anything with it. And I think we changed the song 2 songs before going into the 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks before we went into the studio. We changed the ending riff. It was supposed to be straight up blast beats, but we went back to a 2-step hardcore style beat, and dude, I remember the face we all made that stinky face.
Those songs go hard, man. And your intro on Primal Horde, dude, gets me every time, bro. I go back and I'll go back. It's in like the recording itself and the production. It's just so beefy, man. The kit sound. I mean, everything sounds good. Of course, I'm listening to the drums, but
thank you.
Unreal. And then the double bass in Blood Soaked at the beginning, man. Just like how it's just so powerful, man. Like
that was a good challenge when I wrote that one, because I remember when I first played it, I had trouble playing that part. It was quite fast for me, but I think with Nick, our guitar player, shout out to him. He writes all of the riffs. That guy is a death metal genius. Like really, he's so fucking good. Yeah. But we played that song over and over again, and I think I got like the motion down with my heels and stuff, and I was like, okay, now I can play that at a really nice pace. It's tight and it's fast. It's powerful too, because it's what you want. Because even though I play with the triggers live, I still wanted to really hit the drums hard.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, it sounds awesome, man. So stoked for you. It's cool band and like seriously so heavy. Perfect for the podcast. So heavy music, man. That's why we're here. Take me back to, when you first heard music, right? Like I want to go all the way back to when you were a kid and you were like, wow, this is music. And then tell me when heavy music entered for you.
All right, I would say the first band I really got into when I was a kid wasn't really a metal band. It was more of a rock band. It was U2.
Yeah.
My mom really loved that band. I was like, you know what? I really like it. And when I heard Sunday Bloody Sunday, how the snare was really hard in that song, I was like, hey, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
That's that's harder. I kind of like it. And then I went into my own searches online, seeing what can I have that gives me this nice feeling that I got with this snare on that song.
Wow.
And I remember that was back in 2003 or 2004, a video game called Prince of Persia Warrior Within had a pretty hard rock soundtrack.
It's heavy, man. I love that game so much.
I wasn't too young to play that game back then. I was like nine or 10. But it was a soundtrack made by Godsmack and some other bands that they hired.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I remember like, yo, that tone is so cool, and the drums that are like synced with with like the bass and all. I was like, okay, that's really cool. I like that. And I remember I was like a big fan of Godsmack as a kid.
Yeah.
And I was like 10 or 11. And then it was the game Guitar Hero 3 and Rock Band that really got me into rock and metal, because then I saw bands like Slipknot, Metallica, Slayer, and Lamb of God. I remember one of my cousins showing me the clip to Laid to Rest, like in 2005. It wasn't like my type of music back then, but I really liked the drums. And I was like, that's pretty much the bands that I really liked as a kid and a teen. Now was really like Metallica, Slayer, Slipknot, Lamb of God, Anthrax, like a lot of thrashy bands, and some bands that were a bit more hardcore, like a bit more well, not hardcore, but like more heavier, I would say. And from then on out, it was pretty much the same like love of music / genres that I had. Like it was a lot of thrash, and then more into college I went into a lot of deathcore, like the mid 2010s. Like 2015, I was a big fan of deathcore. I really liked it. Suicide Silence was probably my favorite band in the genre, and still is right now, to be quite honest. And I would say Whitechapel too was also a band that I loved a lot back in 2009, 2010, those kind of years. And I would say I'm still into those genres, but a bit less now. Right now, I'm really big into hardcore and old school death metal. That's really what I am into right now in the heavier genres. I would say that's what I'm into. But I'm also a big fan of like other things that are not heavy, but like I would say like synthwave is probably my favorite genre of music aside from metal, hardcore, and punk. Like that's probably
you gotta take the break sometimes, right? I mean, I know like some people that it's really like they own this and heavy, but of course. I mean, like for me right now, Chapel Roan, I'm like, so I can't get enough. Or like Charlie XCX, her latest album. It's just fun, man. That's cool though. So similar taste, and like I'm like you right now. I kind of went to a death metal and like hardcore phase, which is super cool. So, okay, so it's like the big bands like Lamb of God and Slipknot, of course. Probably like a lot of people's Metallica. That for me too. It's like Metallica and Korn. Then the metalcore phase. Yeah, dude. Suicide Silence, like The Cleansing. I think back to that album often, and I never get sick of it. It always like if I'm at the gym and I can't decide on something, it's like I'm gonna put that on.
It's such a good record, man. It's from A to Z, every song on it, I'm like, it's so good. It's
Crazy.
yes.
Even No Time to Bleed. For me, like the production's a little like loose. I don't know the word,
Yes.
but it kind of works for it. It's just, the snare is crazy. It's just
Yes,
like
dude, it
so
sounds
wet
so good.
sounding. I guess I don't know. That's so cool, man. Now, were you going? I'm assuming going to shows too at the same like during
Yeah.
that time. What's it like upping? I've never been to. I've been to Oshega
Yeah.
Festival, but like
Yeah.
I've never been to any other musical like show or anything in Canada. But it seems like it has a scene for sure.
Oh yeah, it has a big scene, like especially here in Montreal. The scene for any kind of music, which is rock, punk, metal, hardcore, even indie, really small stuff, any kind of genre, there's a scene. People go to shows every single day.
Yeah,
There's at least per day 3 or 4 local shows that are on,
yeah,
and always a big show or two. I would say like every week or two. There's always something that you can go and see, which is amazing. Like
wow,
right now, this weekend in Montreal, there's a EDM fest at the same place that you went and see the Oshega Fest.
oh, okay,
It's run by the same group, which is Evenco, which
okay,
is
oh
probably the
yeah, I remember
biggest
that. Yeah,
place to book your show in town. If you're a
mm-hmm.
big artist, you probably go through them. And yeah, I mean, there's a big active scene, and right now to be in the hardcore scene, it's the shows I go see and play to the most. There's always, which is really cool, new faces at shows. So there's more people going to shows now, and what I like is
Huh?
it's not the same people I've seen for the past 10 years. It's new, younger faces, kids that are there for the first time that I can see that it's their first show,
Yeah.
and it's a big goal of Primal Horde too, is to do all ages show, so
Oh,
that
cool.
kids can come to show and want to start their band, and when they're 20, 25, 30, they're still so like in love with what they do in the scene, that they still play shows and create tracks and all,
Yeah.
even if you're well into your 30s. Like, it's super cool to see these fresh faces at show. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, they're down to come to a show that you just see people swinging their fists around. You don't know
Yeah.
what it's going on, but it's really fun to see kids come at shows, and just to see also the same people I've been seeing for 10 years going to the
Yeah. Oh
shows
yeah.
every single weekend. Shout out to Vice, a guy in Montreal. This guy moshes like no one else, and he's there every single show. He's present.
I
He's
love
there.
it.
He supports every band that's there in the scene. The guy's an angel, and there's a lot of guys and
Wow.
girls and just everyone in between two that goes to shows, and it's super cool that it's really inclusive, and it's a safe place for all too. Like, I think from what I've heard too, that people feel safe at shows, that it's a place that they can feel like, all right to express how they are and who they are. So it's super
Yeah.
cool for them. And I think it's really cool that our scene can be as open and just inclusive as that. But every scene has its little problems and dramas. That's
Right. Right.
just that will happen. But I would say that here it's super cool. It's super healthy too, and the amount of shows are always going up. And like in 2 weeks, I'm going to see a show that's at like 2 p.m. under a bridge in Montreal. You have to ask to
What?
know where it is. So it's kind of like fun
Whoa.
DIY shows. There's a couple of venues you can just rent and do pretty much whatever you want. There's one called the Bâtiment Set, which is you can pretty much rent it and you can do whatever you want with it. Like we did a show there like a month ago or a month and a
Wow.
half ago, and it was a super cool space. But we did not take into account that if it's a DIY space, they don't have a sound guy, and we just
Oh,
went there without any sound guy, and there was by chance someone in the crowd that was one, and we just paid him, and it just did the whole gig. But
oh,
I
wow.
just got sidetracked here, but just to say, like the scene here is really alive. It's
It's strong, yeah.
super fun. It's super strong, and I'm glad to see that the kids that are like 18, 19, 20 are going at shows, and some of them now are starting their bands. We
Mm-hmm.
actually booked one of them that was like their first ever show. We booked them for our show like 3 weeks ago,
Oh,
and they were
wow.
so stoked to play Foufs, because Foufs is kind of a little place that is magical in Montreal in some way, because it's the venue that Nirvana played, and like
Oh, okay.
everyone's like, "Oh, I'm playing in the same place as Kurt." People
Yeah,
love,
no, that's
but
awesome.
it's a really nice
Wow.
place to go and just play and chill and like have a drink too.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Because I know like a lot of the on the U.S. like tours, they'll go up to Montreal for a show and then come back down to like Mass right after
Yep,
Boston. So yeah, that's awesome. Despised Icon, are they from? Dude,
they're
like one of my
they're they're
favorites.
from here. They're probably one of the biggest exports that we have in heavy music.
Yeah, I love
Alongside,
that band, man.
yeah, that band goes hard, man,
Oh
and I
man,
really hope they'll do some new things soon, because
yeah.
I know they did a lot of touring like in 2022, I think, or
They played
2023.
New England Metal Fest. I saw them for the
Hey,
first time in person. Yeah, last year.
oh, nice. Okay, yeah.
They were fire. They were so tight.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude, their drummer is insane.
Crazy. And like again, if someone's listening, it's not a drummer, but you've seen his bass pedals, how far off the ground they are.
Like big heel blockers, like
Yeah.
at least like 3 or 4 inches. I don't know.
So high. Dude rips though. I love watching him
Yeah.
play. Wow. And then you're so okay, metalcore, the scene. So are you in a band at this point in like high school? Did you start?
High school, not really. I was more shy as a person back then, so I was not
Yeah.
really social. I was not really speaking to a lot of people, but
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely in the mood to have a band, to start one. Like I knew I
Yeah.
wanted to do that, and by like at my high school graduation, I did play a song
Mm-hmm.
with like 2 or 3 other guys. It was we did a cover of "Seek and Destroy" by
Yeah. At your high
Metallica,
school
and
graduation?
yeah, dude, and it was kind of hard because at some point people kind of got up their chair and started like fucking cheering and shit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's kind of nice, and like I think it was at least
Wow.
500 to 600. Well, yeah, 500 to 600 in that room, and I was like 17. I was like, okay, that's a lot of people. Oh my god,
Wow.
that's a lot of people. But I would say that's the only thing I did in high school. But then when I got into college, the place that I went to, they had in the basement a room with
Okay.
drums, bass, guitars, mics,
Oh.
synth, and all you wanted to just jam. And I just went there and I had my first jam with other people, and I liked the experience so
Wow.
much. I was like, okay, I want a band. I want to start one ASAP. I
Mm-hmm.
was 2014 when I really got into the plan of having a band. I was like 19,
Yep. Okay.
or about to be the 19. Yeah, I was making plans with some people online on groups on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm a guy who plays drums, that plays this kind of band. I'm looking for bassist, guitarist, blah 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 blah. If you want to have a jam, DM me. That's
Yeah.
how pretty much it started, and that's how I got also my first gig as a real drummer back in 2015 in July, almost nearly 10 years ago at this
Wow.
point. Now it's
Yeah.
9 years ago, with my first band, Confined to Oblivion.
Yep.
I was in that band for 8 years, and
Wow.
then I switched to Primal Horde. They're still going strong. They have a new drummer. They played their biggest show yet to 1,100 people, and I'm really
Whoa.
proud of them,
Yeah.
because that was a big milestone for them that I know that they wanted for a long time. So I'm really proud of my
That's
boys.
cool. That's cool.
And that's pretty much how I got really into like playing music. It wasn't like really until I was more of an adult that I
Mm-hmm.
really got into the whole flow of I want to play music. Before that, I was not sure if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like that's why I started to play drums also too in a way because I wanted to play with my cousin who played guitar, and I was
Okay.
like, oh, that would be cool, like to
Yeah.
jam with him, but since we don't see each other a lot, it was kind of hard to actually find a
Right.
purpose. So
Right.
as a kid, it was a bit harder to say, okay, now I need to practice drums.
Yeah. 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 So going back to the college thing real quick,
Yeah.
it was this a music school or was this just a regular college that happened to have a jam room?
Yeah, it was just well. Here it's weird. Like I would say it's a college to be more simple, but it's called a CJIP here because there's high school CJIP, and then you go to college or either you go work. Me,
Oh.
I went to work straight afterwards, but yeah, like it's a pretty big CJ. I think it's the biggest in the province of Quebec. It's
Oh.
called Edouard Montpetit, and
Okay.
they had a jam room downstairs, fully equipped for us. And I remember, like every year, we had to present a budget to school
Mm-hmm.
to say we want that for this year's upgrade to the jam space, and we had really like to have a whole team of people to have that done, and it was a fun way to get us involved into things and how it works. When I look back at it now, it was like a fun way to teach us like some things when you run a business or something like that. But yeah, it was fun. Like you had
Wow.
a jam space room, and also right beside it, you had a room if you wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, whole room to play there with multiple tables. It was super cool. Like it was a really nice place to go for school when you were like
Wow.
18. It was really
That
nice.
is unique. Wow. I
Yeah, man.
dig that, man. That's so cool. Um, that is a unique situation. I wish schools had more jam rooms. I think
Mm,
that could be something there. Wow.
really.
All right. So at this time, so when you leave school, what are you mainly listening to? Is it still like heavy? Are you into metalcore still? Are there
Yeah.
any like main bands that you like were like they're your go to at this time? Like you always had them in rotation.
Right now, I would say in my rotation, always Lamb of God. I think that
Yep.
band will never get old to me, and I just saw
Yep.
them like 10 days ago
Oh wow. How was it?
to play their 20th anniversary tour for Ashes of the
Yeah.
Wake. That was amazing. One of the best shows I've seen in a while.
Wow.
That band is always in my rotation after the Burial too.
Oh, you're
Always,
speaking my language.
it's always
I
in there.
I am so obsessed with that band, man. It never gets old. I
It's
like
so
every
good.
song, every single
Yes.
song. Oh, thank you. That made me feel great.
There's After the Burial. There's also a bit of Wage War that I still like to put
Yep.
on from time to time. Some Cannibal Corpse. That's just
Yeah.
some classic to me that I always love. And I would say right now, a band that's from the greater Toronto area,
Okay.
Built on Blood. It's a hardcore band.
All right.
They put out their first EP like a couple days ago. It is the hardest hitting hardcore I have heard in a while.
Built
This,
on Blood. I
yeah,
cannot
Built
wait to
on
look
Blood,
this up.
really good. That is really great. We played with them in Toronto in July or June. I don't quite
Mm-hmm.
remember. Awesome band, awesome guys. And also Crowbar. I have
Yeah.
that a lot in my rotation. That's what I have too. And outside of metal, that's kind of funny, but the soundtrack to Elden Ring, it's
Yeah.
just great. It's great, like or orchestral music, and it's something
Yeah.
that since I'm really young, I really like, and it's one of my favorite games too. So
Yeah. That's cool.
when I'm at the gym, I sometimes put that followed by Built on Blood, and then
Yeah.
Lamb of God, and I am in the zone. It's really cool.
Wow. I'm gonna check that out. I see you. I think I've seen you post stories about that game. It does seem
Yeah,
like it's a pretty epic journey.
it is.
Oh, dude. So after the burial, I'd love to dissect that for a minute. I I don't know what it is. I think it's just like it just like mixes well with me and my musical emotions. I just love that band, and every song has a moment for me.
Yes.
Like pretty much every song, I'm like, I love this part so much. And I guess I'll say the way the drummer and the bassist and guitar, like the way they just sync up, especially during some of the breakdowns and like
They're
the
so
patterns.
tight.
It's just so tight, even live, and I can't get enough of it, man. Is there a go-to like album or track for you?
That's a tough one. I would say a Wolf Amongst Us is probably one of my
Wolf
favorite.
Amongst Ravens?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's they end all their sets usually with it. It's
there's that one. There's Neo Seol that I really like.
Yeah.
And Berserker. That one has the craziest breakdown of them all. Like they're really fast,
dude.
Like 3 strokes. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. My gosh. But yeah, so that album, so that's the first album, Rare Form, right? With Berserker, but then Wolves Within with Neo Soul and A Wolf Amongst Ravens. I just can't get enough of it. It's just the best.
It's so good.
Have you ever heard, I think I asked like another homie in a podcast about this, like the song, it's an intro off of one of their older albums called Pi, P-I.
No, I haven't heard that one.
Look that up after this. I will look up Built on Blood, right?
Yeah.
It's just P-I, and then it's like God of something. It's an After the Burial song. It's an intro to one of their albums. As a drummer, you will totally get what I'm saying. It's like very hard to play.
Perfect. I will definitely check that out.
I love it. So the death metal. I wasn't ever super into like old school death metal until I met a friend through mountain biking. His name's Evan. And then he sent me down a path. And the first band on that path, and the one I like the most, is Fetus. I don't want to get like canceled on this, so I'll just say the second half of their name. But I can't get it. We saw them 3 times in the same year. I discovered them. I just can't believe how brutal and amazing that band is. So good. Yeah. So you got Corpse. What else you got?
Corpse. Right now there's Fozen Soul from Texas.
Dude, they're so sick.
They're so good. I discovered them when they played a show here. I don't remember for which band they were opening for, but I remember just them being really tight on stage, really hyped to play a show, because it was in the MTELUS venue, which is like 2,000 people you can fit in there. So I think it was like one of their biggest shows that they had on this tour. I think, and I remember like I was really impressed by just how good and how tight these guys were on stage. Like, okay, they know how to play death metal. That's great. And I actually had a little list that I'll pull up right now, because I cannot remember all of them on top of my head.
This is fun. I saw them at New England Metal Festival. I didn't even know who they were, and I was like, this band is ripping.
It's kind of a hard one to pronounce, but Sangui Sugabog. That band is amazing. Every song that they have put out so far, I'm a huge fan. I missed them when they were on tour here, and I'm kind of sad because it's one of my favorite bands for at least the past year. There's Xibalba that I really love, and we actually play one of their songs as a cover on our set, which is called Cold. It's a really, really great song, and everyone goes crazy when we play that one. Fun fact, we're kind of tired of playing it, but like people love it so much. We're like, let's go.
Gotta give it to them.
And there's also Morbid Angel, which I absolutely love. That one is a bit hard to pronounce too, and I don't want to screw up anything, but it's called Patli. It's a band from Mexico. Whoa. And they have a lot of tribal stuff in their sound. It sounds amazing.
That's cool.
There's 200 Stamboods also, which I absolutely adore.
Is so fire.
And I have to give also a shout out to our homies in Scorching Tomb. These guys are about to put out an LP pretty soon with
Ooh.
some big features on it.
Okay.
And right now they do probably the best old school death metal in Montreal, I would say.
Wow.
It's really like, if you guys want to hear some really solid death metal, Scorching Tomb. Like,
It's
these
a great
guys
name.
rip it.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
And
That's
we
a good
actually put out
list.
a split with them.
Yes. Yep.
And it was a great experience. And we actually went on did a small tour with them last year. Like, we did 4 days: Montreal, Quebec, Hamilton, and Toronto. That was
Cool.
really fun too. Great guys. So yeah, man. And that's pretty much it, I would say, with the death metal bands.
Yeah. No, that's a good list. I think it's like, maybe I just wasn't as aware of it or into it, but it does feel like death metal is big right now, and like
It is. I think it's
it
the
is,
biggest
right?
it's
Like, I feel
been
like it's
since the
back.
90s. Yeah. I think it's back, man, because I haven't seen so many, like, first kids that want to play death metal now.
Yeah.
And the established bands right now, like Corpse, like
Right.
Morbid Angel, these guys are playing big fests, big shows, really nice tours that they tour on a pretty regular basis now.
Yep.
And it's really fun to see, like, people want to see death metal again, I think. And I cannot pinpoint the exact reason why.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure if my singer was there, he's a lot into that culture, into death and hardcore music.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time he gave me, like, his thinking about it, and now I cannot have it in mind, but it made sense. But pretty much, I think people are like, want to go back to a bit of a nostalgia feeling of the 90s. That's what I kind of feel somehow, because in the 2020s, I feel like we see the 90s with some rose tinted glasses sometimes. And I would say, like, that part of that culture of the 90s, the old school death metal, like, for me, that a lot of the sound of death metal that I base myself upon comes from the 90s. So I think people want to go back to that kind of era, but now they find new ways of having their touch on it. Like, I would say 200 Stam Boots. Like, it's pretty much old school death metal, but with a modern twist. With, like, the prod sounds, man, kind of like it sounds good, but it sounds still like kind of foiled in. I don't know how to say it.
Dude, I totally get it. Like, it sounds like it was recorded 20 to 30 years ago.
Yes,
but it's got modern, like, songwriting in the death metal and hard, because they, like, were kind of a hardcore band at first, right? I noticed a lot of hardcore bands are now adding a lot of death metal riff to their music, and I'm here for it, because I just love death metal, right? So and hardcore's really, again, like, not that it wasn't ever like a thing, but I do think it's back and big.
Yeah, it's bigger than when it was, for sure. And that I can confirm from the scene here in Montreal pre 2020. The scene was not doing so well. Like, less and less were going to shows. Less and less shows were being booked and all. But after 2020, like, when things starting to be open here, it was like back, honestly, like mid 2022. That's when people really started to go into shows at a pretty big basis. And, like, that's when I saw that a lot of bands were created in the scene around, like, the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023 here in Montreal. The bands that you see a lot are like 2 or 3 years old max.
Wow.
And I would say one of our biggest exports in the scene, called Prowl, which is Prowl has a more of a 80s tone to them, 80s thrash hardcore. These guys are touring Europe, America like crazy, and it's probably our biggest export in the scene right now. And these guys, I can see with the size of shows that they play right now here, like, they open for Comeback Kid.
Okay, cool.
So now they play a lot of big shows, and like this band was formed around, I think, 2015, 2016, but they started to pick up a lot of new fans and bigger shows like maybe two years ago, when the scene started to sprout back up into what it is now.
Right. Oh, that's great. No, yeah, I wonder if people like took being able to go to shows pre-2020 for granted, and we're like, oh my gosh.
Absolutely. We
Like,
took that for
now I
granted,
miss it so
especially
much.
here.
I got to go to as many as I can.
Yeah. That's what
Wow.
I try to do now, because I was like, well, we don't know if something will happen when it closes down again. So we just go to shows as much as I can. Right now, being a bit busy, I haven't had the time, but now I have some that are lined up for the end of the year, and I'm quite hyped for it.
That you're gonna play in or go to yourself to listen?
Both.
Oh, very cool.
Both.
So let's talk about that. So I know you said you really want to get to touring in the US.
Yep.
So are you, the rest of the year, you're going to be playing through Canada?
Yeah, right now the rest of the year I can't say where, but we're playing here. For sure we're playing in the country. We I think for the US it's something we're still like being into. Okay, how can we do it in a cost effective way? That's especially that, because from what I understand, the visas for artists when you want to play in the States have gone up a lot. I mean, I think it's like $2,000 per people now.
Oh wow,
that's kind of crazy. Yeah. And it's like that for like if you're a small artist or a big one. So you cannot really have a big margin of error, because right now if we go to the States just with visas, we're like $8,000 down the drain. So
that's
there's
a lot.
there's that to take in account for, but really it's something we want to do for next year. I cannot promise anything, but we have some like a roadmap of the cities that we want to do. We have a pretty good idea now. It's finding a way to get our visas and then seeing where we can sleep to, how we can play with, like, do we bring our gear, do we rent gear, that kind of questions that you have to ask yourself before you go on a tour like that. But it's something we want to do, and I would say the city we are hyped to play like two cities. It's Cleveland and Detroit. I know we will have a lot of fun there, because people, from what I've heard, like to mosh really hard there, and that's what we're in for. So it's two cities that are kind of hyped to play. It's those two, but also I hope we can get to a bit of the southern states, East Coast too. And I know we want to do also a couple of dates in the West Coast at some point.
Of course,
because our label is from the Midwest. It's Barbaric Brutality. And they put out some amazing stuff, man. And we're really glad to be with them, because it's a label we've had our eyes on for quite some time. So we're really happy to be in their roster, and pretty sure they'll be able someday to maybe get us a date in the Midwest. And that would be a place that we know we would love to play. So
wow. Cleveland. I know Detroit throws down. Cleveland, that's super interesting. Not that I'm throwing shade at Cleveland. I didn't know it's like such a moshy, heavy place. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what we've heard. So I'm like, hey, man, we're hyped to go play there then. Let's go.
Yeah. That else seems like it has a crazy scene, is like Florida. There's like a lot of hardcore and like metal festivals down there.
We absolutely want to go and play there, for sure.
Wow. And then in terms of shows you're going to go see, what are your like top 2 or 3 that you're super stoked for?
Oh man,
stoked. I would more,
say, I would say right now the more I'm stoked about is the one that I talked earlier, Under the Bridge, just because I never went to that place to go see a show, so it would be a first for me to go there.
Is it a heavy show, or is it?
Yeah, it's a hardcore show.
Wow.
With I think their opening band is a death metal band.
Cool.
So there's a lot of mixes of death metal and hardcore here now, which is really cool. But I would say that's the one that I'm most hyped about. And I'll see if I can maybe pull a little list, because sometimes I kind of forget about it, because
you have that many lined up.
Well, not that I have my tickets right now, but that like I want to go and see. There's a lot because I know there's Ginger that's coming into town, and I really want to go and see them because it's they're one of my favorite bands. There's Speed, a hardcore band that's coming too, because our friends in Desecrate are will be the openers for them.
That's cool.
On that show. There's also Black Flag, like in a couple of days, that I might go and see, because that band for me is really important for me too. And probably the biggest one yet I'm looking forward to is in a month exactly. It's Nails, Mammoth Grinder, 200 Stab Wounds, and Tribal Gaze.
Oh wow,
that is an insane lineup to me, and
that's brutal show.
That will be quite brutal, especially Nails. I have a feeling that will go insanely hard.
Dude, I had heard Nails for the first time when maybe 2017, but I know they had been around for a bit before then, and I just I was like, this is unrelenting. It was so crazy. And then They'll Never Be One of Us dropped.
Yes.
And that was like off I think their last album before they like took a break, because their new stuff is sick, like a couple new tracks. So then I reached out to Taylor. I was like, dude, I'd love to get you on SJC, and he came on.
Hell yeah.
So he's not the drummer currently, but he was the drummer on They'll Never Be One of Us. Or what is it? What did I say? They'll Never Be One of Us. I forget, but that song rips. The double bass, and I was just like, this band's heavy. When I first heard Primal Horde, I was like, oh man, I think they might like Nails. Right, I can hear that sound, right? But I was like, I think that's a compliment, I hope.
Oh yeah, it is for sure. And I remember for that show specifically, for the Nails show, some people like get Primal Horde to open this show, but it's a 4-band package tour, so I don't think there's place for a 5th one for that date. But people were also quick to point out that Primal Horde on that bill will go hard, man.
Yeah,
it will go hard. And indeed it would.
Yeah.
Just saying, you know.
No, hey, everyone listening, it would go hard. That would be sick. So the rest of the dudes in the band, similar tastes, like hardcore death metal.
I would say our singer Alex is really deep into hardcore. It's his favorite genre, and also he's really deep in the culture of it. He really loves it a lot. Nick, our guitar player, is really big into death. He's less into hardcore, but he's really into a big death metal guy. And Jay, our bassist, we had the last drummer. His name was Jay too, but we had our bassist is Jay too. But yeah, Jay really likes more hardcore, but like with a touch of hardcore. Sorry. He likes death metal, but he also likes hardcore in an equal way. And kind of funny, because this guy's used to play in an indie band, and now he plays in our band. So it's kind of funny, but just like me, when I joined in, Alex went through a teaching phase with him, and now me. Like I remember me and Alex, we were going to the gym, and in the car he would put a lot of tracks of like, okay, like get how the drums play this part, because when the drums do that, the crowd will go and do this in the mosh. And he kind of showed me like the ways that drums in the hardcore song really dictates how the crowd will react and mosh and or dance. So that was kind of a nice way to see it through his lens of this guy that went to hardcore shows for like half of his life.
Yeah.
To really tell me like when I hear that pattern and when I see it in shows, people start to do this in the mosh. I was like, okay, so that's how it works. All right. And that's how now I approach my drumming in Primal Horde, is like, how can I get the crowd to do something with my drums, and how can it fit the riff also? And we really try and think like, how can we kind of dictate the flow of how people will move throughout the set and the song. That's how we kind of approach songwriting. And that was really cool for Alex to show me that, because Alex kind of, he used to play drums before, so he has a basis in it, like, and that's coming from him. He tells me a lot, like, I'm not the best drummer, but I know how to cook a beat. And he's really right with that. He knows how to cook one, because there's a lot of beats on the songs that I've been on right now that are straight up things that he suggested for me to do, and I was like, yo, that's a great idea. I'll keep that. Wow. And now I really approach drums in the way that he would.
Yeah.
And with my own spin on it too, of course.
Yeah.
But that's how he taught me and Jay, like, the difference of the chord style of music, like the deathcore and all, to a more hardcore type of music, how it goes, how the rhythm has a way more, like, bigger and more important role overall than the melodies. I would say they take kind of a back seat in there. And that, for me, coming from a band before with Confined to Oblivion, that was straight melodies all the time, going to now a strict rhythmic based band, that was a huge departure for me. So that's why he took the time with me to show the ropes. So was that, and Nick is more into death metal, Jay's more into the, like, both of them, but Alex took the time to show us what the hardcore style of music adds to our death songs. And I would say it's more like, it's really a product of Nick with his riff, Alex with his ideas of drumming, and now me and Jay are pretty much down with how it works. So even Jay, sometimes he's like, Dave, you could maybe do that on drums. And I trained, like, oh yeah, it's a really good pass, man. I'll keep that in mind. Like, a really nice feel. Sometimes he comes up with things. So we're all giving our input on the drums, and even the riffs. Like, sometimes, like, hey, can you do this in that way instead? So it's really a big group effort, like, when we're as a band and writing a song, because we're all in the same type of music that we love. We want to produce the same kind of track, so we have a clear vision of how we want to do it and how we will do it. Because I tend to want to overcomplicate and, like, overthink some things.
Okay.
And these guys were like, nah, pull it back, go simple.
Right.
Like, simple is sometimes the most complex thing you can do. And I was like, that's kind of true. And I remember I just toned down my drumming for some of the songs, and I basically really like it more like that. Like, instead of doing a lot of blast beats, sometimes I just go to a straight skank beat, because people wanted, like, two-step mosh on it. And I can see that then on the bass, Jay can do, like, more really straight hard picks on his bass to get, like, that really, like, thuddy sound. And then Nick sometimes do some tremolos on top and creates a really nice sound. So since we're all in the same vein, it's kind of easy to go and write the songs we want to do.
I've never heard someone describe, like, writing their instrumentation or just writing songs. Of course, you, for the fans, for the people that you want coming to your shows, but more so, you're writing them to make the bands move. And that is cool.
And I think Knocked Loose has that same kind of approach when they are writing their songs. I remember, I think was the drummer or singer, they said it in an interview, and I was like, that's a really cool way to approach songwriting. And now that I've been doing it for like a year and a half, 2 years with those guys, I would say that I prefer that approach, because that's how we wrote the song Killing Fields.
Okay.
That's straight up, we wanted to do a mosh song that people would mosh for 2 minutes straight. Like, every riff, we thought, like, okay, now they will be doing this kind of movement.
What?
Next one, what can we do so that the flow stays the same, but, like, they change a bit what's going on the dance floor, if you want to say that. And I remember, like, it was the ending of the song, the breakdown, if you will. We had a bit of a hunch, like, okay, what can we do? Because we had to end that soft, like that song so hard, because the whole riff is so hard, from the start to when we were doing like the build up, and we took a lot of inspiration from the song to carry the load from Crowbar. Like just that straight going slower beat on the hi-hat, that just straight like this, with the riff that goes slower and slower. Like we just went to the classic approach, but people loved it so much. Like I remember when we did our release show, people were like, dude, Killing Fields is amazing. People were were raving on it, and live is still my favorite one to play as of right now, because I can see people just going crazy, and it feels good inside.
That's awesome, dude. I love it. Now, in the Instagram bio, it says Frozen Tribal Rhythms from Montreal. Yes. And then it has something I don't know what it says. So can you explain what I'm reading?
I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. It's Tiotake, I think. It's the way that the natives here named the territory of Montreal before we went in there and said it's ours. Right. So that was the name. So for us, it's important to really put that out there and recognize that it is a land that's not ours. We took it from someone else. And for us, it's super important to put it there. And it's also something that the scene here in Montreal is starting to do a bit more. More bands are starting to put that into their bio. And it's something that's, we take heart to it in the scene. It's something that I can see people like in the scene going to places to actually protest that kind of stuff when it happens here. So we're quite involved, and for us to show at least that we know it's not ours in our bio, it is a way for us to show our support.
That is cool. That is cool, man. So for those listening, where can they go here and learn more about your band, brother?
On Instagram at primal.horde, where we post the most on there. I would say we try to post stories at least once a day. It's our singer that runs the account. You can go on there. It's probably our most active social platform. Then you can go on Spotify, Apple Music to go and see and listen to what we do. We have our demo, we have the Blood River EP, the Split EP, and now the self-titled EP on there. So we have a good 20 to 25 songs to choose from.
And they rip. I can confirm they absolutely rip. So yeah, dude, this was awesome. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man. That was a really, really great time, and it's been like 5 years since we've had a real face-to-face talk.
No, for sure. I mean, of course, like DM each other and stuff. You see in the gym, like, or whatever, like, what song is that? But again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man.
Primal Horde rips. I'm very excited for you, and I love discovering that on my own. Like, oh my god, Dave. So, dude,
that was a really fun, like, dude, Zach's like saw me in the band. Hell yeah, I was like so happy, man.
Yeah, dude. Oh, so sick. And shout out to my dude Patrick for telling me about you guys. I looked you guys, like, oh my god.
Shout out Patrick,
so
man.
Sick. Yeah. But hey, have a great rest of your day, man.
You too, dude.
Thank you, and I'll catch you soon.
Take care, brother.
Later.